I think anybody can write.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's like a muscle, like working out. The more you do it, the better you get. And it's about having discipline. I think of writing like running a marathon. It's not like you can't like decide one night you're going to be a writer and the next day you go out and run a mile. It's like the long game.
Yeah.
So you just have to commit. And once you're committed and you work on your craft and you dedicate the time, then you can write a book. Even if you get 2,000 words down a day, 1,000 words down a day, 500 words down a day, whatever you can do, eventually if you do that every day,
you're gonna have a book.
You're gonna have a book.
Welcome, Badass Manifester. I am so glad you are here. I'm your host and head coach, Ashley Gordon, master mindset and manifestation biz expert, founder of the quantum coaching certification, and multiple six-figure entrepreneur obsessed with empowering you to create quantum leaps in your energy, your life, and your business. This is the show to help you make magic your everyday normal, where the ripple effect is real and the guest experts are world class. My mission is to power your conscious and subconscious mind with manifestation teachings, business tools, and coaching techniques to put your potential into action. Consider this your weekly up level. Are you ready for quantum transformation? Let's do this. Welcome back to the Badass Manifester podcast. I'm super pumped today because I have my beautiful friend here. Her name is Danielle Gomes. And I'm super excited. I've been wanting to interview her for so long. She is an author. She's a 3-time, almost 4-time author. And she's a freelance journalist, brand development specialist. And she's an amazing human being. And I wanted to kind of have her on the podcast to share about her journey into writing these amazing books that she's written and what that process was like for her. Because I know so many of you want to write books and just want you to be inspired by just her journey, her story, what she's had to work through to put herself out there. And yeah, I'm really excited to have you here.
I'm so excited too. Thank you so much.
Yay! So, okay, I don't even know where to start really, but we'll just dive in. Like, have you always been a writer?
No.
Okay.
No. I think both my sons are dyslexic. My dad always thought he was dyslexic. I think after seeing like how their brains work, I'm pretty sure I'm dyslexic too. So I never thought I could write. I struggled in school. So it never occurred to me that I could be a writer. But I was always daydreaming. I loved to play pretend as a kid. So I thought I wanted to be like an actor or something like that. And it was only by chance that I ended up writing my first book, simply because I had a story to tell. And then it just kind of spun from there.
So when you say like you wrote your first book by accident, that's kind of interesting because I feel like it's like you have to sit down and like put your butt in the chair and write. Like,
yeah.
So you wrote this book, Hit Me.
Yes.
By accident.
Yes.
Okay. So, tell us more about that. I want to write a book by accident. Do you guys?
Growing up, my dad was actually, before I was born, he was in the law enforcement for the Gaming Control Board in Las Vegas. So he always told his stories about chasing the mob in the casinos in Las Vegas, and people loved them. It didn't matter if he was talking to some big Wall Street guy or my college friends. They were like so enthralled by his stories. So when I was getting my master's degree, I had to take a course outside. So I loved movies, so I was studying film. I took screenwriting, and the only grade in the course is to write a screenplay and pitch it. So I'm like, what am I going to write about? So I'm like, oh, my dad's story. So I pitched it. The pitch was supposed to be 20 minutes, but it ended up going for 2 classes because everyone was so obsessed with this story.
Wow.
So then I turned it into a script. A few people read it. It ended up getting an agent. The agent ended up selling it, and I didn't think I was going to write the book, so we found another writer. But in the time between signing with an agent and the story selling, he got huge jobs writing the Walking Dead books.
Okay. Oh my God.
So he's like, oh, I can't do it. He's like, but I've seen your writing. You can do this. I'll mentor you and we'll just co-author it. So he mentored me through the process, and I ended up writing the book.
Oh my God, that's insane. This was just a college project.
Yeah.
Wow. I didn't know that. That's very cool.
Yeah.
That's very cool. So did you, like, when you were in college, did you, like, write in your journal? Like, did you, like...
I never journaled.
You never journaled.
Like, writing was always kind of like how I got through school. Like, I struggled in school, but if I knew I had an assignment or an essay test or something like that, I knew I'd be able to do it.
Yeah.
So it was like a crutch more than anything else.
Oh, because it was, like, easy for you.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, cool. That's very cool. And I mean, just knowing you, I feel like you have so much inside of you, and you're also, like, kind of quiet sometimes. Like, I don't want to say you're shy, because I don't think you're shy at all. I just think that you are, like, just... I don't know.
I'm an observer.
You're an observer, yeah.
That's how I like to think of it.
Yeah, I like that too. That's so true. It's so cool. Okay, so when you wrote your first book and you were mentored through it, and it has a publisher, and it's in my hands. It's like a legit hardcover book. Like, what did that feel like?
It was incredible.
Yeah.
It's like, when you have a moment when you're doing what you know you're meant to do, it was like that. Like,
wow.
I loved doing it. It felt so incredible. It was so much fun. So it was just like an amazing experience.
So when you were in this process, is that kind of like the time where you felt like, this is my calling, this is what I'm supposed to do? Did you know you were going to write more books? Like,
I think
what was it?
Part of me knew that. I always wanted to write more books, but I wasn't sure. So that's nonfiction. And I was writing it with my dad, who actually died during the time we were writing the book.
Wow.
So I had so much going on. It didn't really click for me.
Wow.
Like emotionally.
Yeah.
And then I just got into, when I wanted a job, I started freelancing in journalism, writing for the press, stuff like that. So it was kind of like I was always writing these little articles, but I love doing that. I still do it, but it wasn't like fulfilling.
Yeah.
But it took up all my time, so it was just kind of like how I was existing.
Mm-hmm.
Then the pandemic hit, and I covered all like restaurants, casino entertainment. Most of the brand work I was doing was for casinos, so everything shut down.
Oh my gosh.
So when I was writing Hit Me, I started Eve Zero, but then I got paying jobs, so I never I just set it aside on it for years and didn't touch it.
So for your first book, that came out what year?
2013.
Okay. And how old were you at that time?
33.
Okay,
Was
wow.
I 33? Yeah. 33.
Oh my gosh, okay. So then you started doing a lot of paid work, and
yeah,
you kind of put your writing to the side.
Yeah.
That always happens when we work for someone else. We're like, we can put my project to the side. Yeah. But I remember talking to you over the years, and you were deep writing this. So when did you picked it? Okay, okay. I want to give an intro to Eve Zero first, or tell them a little bit about the book.
So Eve Zero is set in a post-pandemic world, but almost apocalyptic.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, pandemics have, for the past 10 years in the Eve Zero world, they've totally ravaged the population, and humans are on the brink of extinction. So I started this before we ever even had it. Yeah.
That's wild to me.
Yeah.
The fact that you were channeling that before it even happened is wild.
Yeah. It was when the pandemic hit, I'm like, all right, I have to finish this.
Yeah, you have to.
And then all my jobs shut down, so I'm like, what else am I going to do?
Because I remember talking to you and you were like, I really want to finish it, or you were working on it here and there.
Yeah.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So the pandemic hit and you were like, this is this is my sign.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay, so you finished it.
Yeah.
All right, I want to know a little bit about your process when you sat down, because this is fiction.
Right.
So, it took me a really long time to figure out what nonfiction and fiction was. I'm being honest.
Yeah.
But, so, like, tell me what your process is when you sit down to write. Like, how do these ideas come to you? Because I started reading, I'm going to read this. I don't usually read fiction books.
Yeah.
I usually only read personal development books.
Yeah.
But I am going to read this. And I'm just curious, like, just reading the first chapter even, I was just like, wow, this is so intricate. These characters are, like, full on. Like, the way that you describe and set the scenes and, like, I don't know, I'm just so curious what your process is.
For Eve Zero, I do a lot of research because I want, like, a strong thread of truth to run through, even though it's fiction, like the events I make up. But for Eve Zero, I did a lot of research in science, and I was actually obsessed with, like, crocodiles and alligators and these animals that are so ancient yet thrive in, like, the dirtiest, grimiest environments. And I mean, the whole reason I started writing it was because I was a huge germaphobe, especially when I had my first son. Like, I was crazy, almost to the point of, like, OCD.
Wow.
So it was just sort of how, like, I worked through that in my brain.
That's so good that you had this to work through.
Yeah.
I appreciate you saying that, because that's really real. And so how does this all, but, like, how did it come to you? Like,
so kind of, I watched a documentary on an alligator and how they're so evolved. They rarely ever get sick. They're so in tune with, like, the mud and the grime and the dirt and the germs that's how they thrive and evolve. So I had this idea that we have this evolution gene that just interprets messages from the environment, and it does so mostly through, like, bacteria and viruses, and that's sort of what links the whole world, and the whole world is one system.
wow.
So if that turns off, what would happen to us? So that's kind of...
Whoa. That is freaking amazing. That's deep.
This is why, like, I did so bad in school. I was daydreaming. Like, I go off on these tangents.
That is amazing. So, I know Danielle's husband, so I have to just ask, like, does Ben indulge in your tangents with you? No, come on.
No,
come on.
Not at all.
Seriously?
Yeah.
I don't believe it.
Yeah.
So you're never like, okay, this is the thought that I had today.
All right, maybe a little bit. And then he'll be like, you worry too much.
Yeah, I get that.
Ben and I mean, some people work closely, like husband and wives.
Yeah.
They work together, and we keep our work lives very separate, but we mountain bike together, we surf together. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of like we need our own space sometimes. And our work is our own space.
That makes sense. I like that. So this idea about the alligators and the crocodiles and, like, all that, do you still believe that? Like,
yeah,
I believe it now that you said that. I'm like, that makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, it was really like an idea. Like, I think our bodies need to live in balance with the environment. Mm-hmm. So if something and I looked at plagues, and that was like populations got so out of control and they lived in such filthy environments. But on the other hand, like, if our environment's too sterile and too clean, like, it throws everything off too.
Right.
So I think balance is really key. Mm-hmm. So it was like that kind of idea of finding balance. And then, like, I feel like sometimes we're heading in the wrong direction. Like, our bodies are losing touch with the environment. Everything's so sterile. They're not given a chance to interact.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, even, like, our shoes are rubber and we can't even, like, feel the earth.
Right.
Like, we're not, like, earthing enough, like, getting that, like, electromagnetic energy, because that's also very, like, healing and cleansing to the body. Wow. So, wait, I just had, fun fact, Todd, my husband, you know that. Yeah. He's also, well, he is a germaphobe. I don't know if you are anymore.
I am still a little bit, but I've like gotten forced better. Myself, yeah.
When we go food shopping, he'll like take the bag or whatever bag we bring with us and like put it on the food.
I won't even get a cart anymore. I just use my own bags because oh my God. I don't like them. If I have to, I will.
Yeah.
But
I mean, if it's a big order, you're not going to carry that around the whole store. Well, you're strong.
I might. No.
I mean, I said to him the other day, I was like, just so you know, germs are good for you.
They are good for you.
Yeah. I'm like, but when you wash your hands, think about it. What are you doing? You're just rubbing them around.
Yeah.
You're not really cleansing it.
Yeah. These are things like I've had to come to grips with. Not to freak you out or scare you or anything. But germs also evolve. Yes. So that's also what scares me a little bit. But I won't go into that tangent because I think if our bodies learn to fight them, then we're in a better place. Right. But if germs evolve into these superbugs, that can be super scary too.
Yeah. So interesting. So interesting.
Balance. It's all about balance.
It's all about balance.
Bodies need to learn how to fight germs.
It's so true. Yeah. I think about that for the baby too. Yeah, that's a whole nother conversation. Yeah. But okay, so this is the premise of the book. Everyone needs to read it. So I feel like one time I asked you, how do these storylines come to you? And I think you said in your dreams.
Dreams. Some have come in dreams, shower. Some people, when they write, they will plot out everything.
Yeah.
I'm in a writer's group. They have Excel spreadsheets with their whole books outlined. Other people are called pantsers and they just wing it. I wing it. I'm totally a pantser.
Wow.
I might have some ideas of where I want the story to go, but that's it.
Do you write them down?
Sometimes.
So if you wake up in the middle of the night with an idea, what do you do with it?
I email it to myself.
Oh, okay.
Because I have not sometimes thinking I'll remember it.
Oh, yeah, you won't.
And there's many times I forget.
How many of you listening, I'm just curious, have had these downloads for book ideas or storylines and you're like, I'm going to remember. Yeah. And then they're just gone. They're so gone. Yeah, I have.
Yeah, I learned the hard way many times.
Yeah. So as far as your process for sitting down and actually writing, what is that like? Do you feel like you have to get the motivation to write? How does that work for you?
I don't need motivation to write. Some days it flows easier than other days. And I guess maybe it's I think writing's a muscle. The more you work it out, the easier it is.
Yeah.
So I've taught myself, especially when it comes to writing articles about stuff that I have zero interest in, I don't want to do, and it's a total chore.
Yeah.
If you just get a couple words on the page, eventually it will add up to what you need it to be. So that's my trick for working through any writer's block.
Okay. And last night I was actually hanging out with a writer, and he does more copywriting for different companies. And he was saying the one thing that bothers me the most is when people say to me oh, I'm actually a good writer, I just don't have any time to write.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that means that you're just not a writer.
Right. Writing is time. And writers, you need to have time to write and you need to have time to read. Especially if you want to write fiction or nonfiction, because those are the two skills you really need. So if you say you don't have time, you're just not a writer.
Yeah. So when you get your words on a page and you're flowing, typically in a writing session, how long will you write for and how many pages will you usually do?
I could write for hours and hours and hours. I only stop when either I have to get my kids from school or I have to do something else. Or
wow.
And then I'll take a break to take my dog for a walk or a run. Because I feel like movement
keeps the inspiration flowing.
And I'm not like big on sitting down. Mm-hmm. So I hate like sitting down for extended periods of time. Mm-hmm. So like I have a desk I can stand at or...
Okay. Oh, do you have the standing desk?
Yeah. Well, I have like a stand on my desk that raises like to different levels.
Cool. That's awesome. Yeah, I think that's smart. Like switching it up.
Yeah.
So do you recommend for people that are listening that are like, I want to write, what are some of your tips to help them kind of stay in the flow?
I think anybody can write.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's like a muscle, like working out. The more you do it, the better you get. And it's about having discipline. I think of writing like running a marathon. It's not like you can't like decide one night you're going to be a writer and the next day you go out and run a mile. It's like the long game.
Yeah.
So you just have to commit. And once you're committed and you work on your craft and you dedicate the time, then you can write a book. Even if you get 2,000 words down a day, 1,000 words down a day, 500 words down a day, whatever you can do, eventually if you do that every day,
you're going to have a book.
You're going to have a book.
Make it sound really simple.
It is simple. Life is the hard part.
Wow. Yeah, that's true. That's very true. And something that you just kept saying was like a day.
Yeah.
And like what I'm getting from that is like you have to write every day.
Yeah.
Like you can't take days off.
No.
Tell us a little bit about that. Why is it beneficial to write every day? Like what happens if you break it up?
I think like with Eve Zero, I put it aside to do other things, and before I knew it, years had passed by. So it's just like, then you're kind of starting over. So I had to like relearn everything, put my mind back to where it was. And luckily, the kids didn't have school. We couldn't travel. We were like home with nothing to do.
Yeah.
So that was my escape. And then it reminded me of like how much I love writing and writing books and writing fiction. So.
And I feel like if you do stop for a day, you have to go back and read everything that you wrote before, which takes up a lot of time to get you back into the swing, where if you're just being consistent and you're doing it every day, a little bit every day, you're not going to have to like reread everything.
Yeah, it's momentum. Like
it's momentum.
If you stop, like even if you stop one of those balls from swinging, like you'll have to recreate the momentum again every time you stop. But if you do it continually, the momentum builds and it's that much easier.
I'm curious if you had to break through anything within yourself, like you'd mentioned earlier about this belief or this thought that you are dyslexic or you have dyslexia. Like, is there anything, like, did that stop you from writing ever? Or like what belief like kind of like got in the way of, or if any?
Definitely. I mean, there's something, I don't know if this is in any other fields, but a lot of writers have what's called imposter syndrome.
Yes.
And I definitely do. I guess I felt like I was so late to the game. Like I wasn't a real writer. I was starting slow. I still feel like that. And I still feel like I'm terrible every day. And some days I'm like, oh, this is so good.
Right. You're sitting there and you're like, oh, this is good.
Yeah. So it's just, you just have to keep going. If you like doing it, do it.
I think that's such a great thing that you just shared about imposter syndrome, because I know so many of us have that and feel that way, especially like the coaches listening or anything that you want to step into. Like, it's like, well, who am I?
Yes, exactly.
That's the story. It's like, who am I to do that? Or who am I to be that good at this? Or who am I to publish a book or all of that?
Yeah.
And I think you're right. Like, it's just like you have to just keep going because you love it.
Right.
Even though it's hard. Right.
It's definitely not easy, yeah.
No. When did that kick up the most for you? Was it like when you published or when you were writing? Like when did that, when?
It's weird. It just kind of rears its head every so often. It's like a mood. Like,
Yeah.
sometimes I feel like so on top of things, and then the next day I wake up and I'm like, what am I doing?
Mm-hmm.
And then I just push through, and it's no rhyme or reason that I've figured out yet. So if you know, let me know.
I think you're right. It is kind of a mood, like, or like maybe little things trigger it subconsciously that you're not even aware of. You know, like maybe you were down on yourself the day before for something, or like, I don't know. Sometimes it just pops up. But I feel like whenever it pops up, it wants to kind of be like worked through. Like it wants to be looked at.
Yeah.
For you to say, no, I'm fucking good enough and I'm doing this.
Yeah.
And I am the expert at this. Because like when you're creating art, like in any form, nobody else can be the expert at that. There's no rules.
That's true.
You know?
Yeah. And people have said nobody can tell your story. So
yeah,
nobody can be your voice, like what you're saying.
That's good advice to people. Nobody can be your voice. And I think that's what makes us all different, because it's like I said to someone once, you know, everybody has a book and nobody has a book. I don't know if that makes sense anymore, but it's like everybody has this ability to have a book out into the world, or like to tell your story out into the world, whether it's podcasting or however you express yourself. And people will be attracted to your book or your message or your story because it's coming from your unique expression, not from anyone else's. You know, like nobody can do it like you can.
Yeah, exactly.
So you are the expert.
Yeah. And you don't have to be for everyone.
Right.
Like,
right.
I've gotten a few bad reviews. Luckily, way more good reviews, because they can sting a little bit, but they don't bother me that much because I don't want to be everyone's cup of tea.
Yeah, good.
And I want to rub some people the wrong way.
Yeah.
And I think for coaching, it's the same. People are so different. And, you know, thank God people are different, because life would be really boring if they weren't. Some people need like a gentle pat on the back. Some people need someone that will get behind them and push them.
Yes. So good. It's so true. Thank God.
Yeah.
I love that. Okay, so when you published this, what was your plan? Like, did you have a marketing plan in place, or you were just like, here it is?
Yeah. So I decided to self-publish Eve Zero because I just know how long the process is to find an agent. And sadly, my agent passed away like right before I finished Eve Zero.
Wow.
So I didn't want to like start from scratch, because I felt like the story needs to get out now.
Yeah.
So, and I wanted to see what self-publishing was all about. So it's been a huge learning process, but I love it.
Yeah.
It's very interesting. I don't know that I'll stay self-publishing. I might try to find an agent again.
Because you could still find an agent, and they could still like bring you on for this series, right?
Yeah.
Is that so? I think a lot of people that have this desire to write a book are curious about that. Like, what's the better road, self-publishing or finding an agent? Can you just speak to that a little bit?
Yeah. I really liked having an agent, because they're like a support person. It's, if you have a question, they're there to help you out. So I would possibly like getting an agent, but with that said, you give up so much control. And I feel like self-publishing, I learned so much just about marketing, about the industry, about how it works, about what you need to do. So even if I do go back to traditionally publishing, I think self-publishing helps. I think the only benefit to traditional publishing is distribution. You don't have to put any money out up front. You still have to do a lot of marketing yourself, unless you're like Stephen King or Dean Koontz or like the 1% of authors.
Let's touch on the marketing piece, because I think that that's a huge thing that people do not think of when they write books.
Yeah.
Because it's like, you could write a book and you could publish it, and then what happens?
Yeah.
Right?
Whatever you do, traditional or self-published, indie, whatever you want to call it, you're going to have to market your book.
Right. And like, because when you have a book and you put it out there, it's great. It's out there, but how are people going to know that it's there?
Yeah.
Marketing.
Yeah.
I think that that's a huge, people usually think like, okay, I write a book and then I'm going to be rich and famous.
And
that's
it's
just
magic.
not,
No.
yeah, that's just not how it works.
Yeah.
So also like royalty wise, so with a publisher, do they give you like upfront money to write a book?
Yeah. They
Okay.
pay you. So with the publisher, they paid us in advance, and then they give you a small percentage of the royalties. Mm-hmm.
Which could work for some people.
Yeah. It was nice. I mean, we didn't have to put any money out of pocket up front. Mm-hmm. So that was nice, especially if you're like on a tight budget. But they picked all the cover design. They picked where they sent it out. And at the time, I didn't know anything.
Yeah.
So they like set up.
So you were just like, okay.
Page. Yeah.
Yeah.
They got me started.
And then as going the self-publishing route, you have more control over what you make too, in a way, because you make way more of the, like there's no upfront, here's a check for something, but you keep, I think
70%.
Yeah, 70% of your sales.
And with Amazon, it's so easy. Ingram Spark, draft to digital. I mean, it's so easy to do now.
Yeah, I published our manual for QCA on there. Yeah. And I sell them, and I send them out to our students from Amazon.
Yeah.
And it's so easy. I don't
so
have to keep a bunch of manuals at my
No,
house and ship them out.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. It's so interesting. Okay. So when you finished this book, did you know that there was a sequel?
Yes.
Okay. So you already were planning to write the second one.
Yeah.
Okay. So now
people want a third.
Oh my gosh.
But I just, right now, it's not what I want to write.
Yeah. Okay. So
people have gotten a little mad that there's not
a third.
Yeah.
Well, they say that if you guys hear stuff in the background, I have construction happening in the house and running a business at the same time. So it is what it is. But people say, like, sometimes bad press is good press. So we're like, it's not like bad press, but like people, you're leaving them wanting more.
Yeah. Which I take as a good thing.
It's a good thing. So then the next book that you write will just have to suffice.
Yeah.
So how did this one flow out of you? The second one, Lucien.
I kind of had an idea for it when I finished Easier. Like, I knew they needed to come back, and it's just like when I sit down to write, the story just kind of unfolds. And I get ideas as I'm going.
And you're just flowing.
Yeah.
Do you go back and read like what you write in the same like session and like move things, or no?
Usually not.
Okay. So you're not editing as you're going.
No. And I know some people do. Some people edit every single day. Once in a while I will, like if I'm sitting down and nothing's coming to me, I'll go back and read and edit.
Right. Okay.
But generally I don't. I
just want to read the description of the second book to everyone. So after discovering that Dr. Lucien Sabara's sinister plot to alter future generations of humankind through genetic manipulation, Dr. Gail, and Lieutenant Christian Silver must continue their fight to stop the plans of this ruthless scientist at all costs. It sounds chillingly familiar to our world today.
Yeah.
Like, what?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So in Lucien, I was brainstorming with another writer from a group. They're like, oh, you got to make this happen. And her idea was so good. I'm like, you're right. That is the story. So in order to treat the whole crux of the story is that the human evolution gene has been turned off, which is a reader gene that operates based on our immune system. So they have to find an active gene, but they have to turn off a key switch on this gene, which also controls reproduction, especially in women. It's in a similar spot. So
I didn't finish reading it.
By treating this gene, women can no longer reproduce naturally.
That blew my mind when I read that.
This doctor wants to create a more evolved species, but
it's sinister.
Yeah.
It sounds like, I'm not even going to say it because I don't want to get political, but wow, that's wild. We just had to pause for a second because we just needed to like go off script for a second. Sorry to keep that from you. But yeah, wow, this is really cool. If you guys want to read something just really unique and like not in the personal development world, but just get you thinking in a completely different way, you should definitely read these books. Definitely. Eve, Zero, and Lucien. We're going to link them up in the show notes so that you have easy access to click the links. So how did that feel? How far apart did you publish them?
A year.
Okay. That's perfect.
Yeah.
And were you surprised at the responses that you were getting from people?
Yeah.
What was that like?
It's a really good feeling when somebody gets it.
Yeah.
When they read it and they get it and they like it. It just feels like, especially like if it's someone that I don't know, a total stranger in another country even, or another part of the world or anywhere in this country that reads it and is moved and affected by something that you write. It's like magic.
Yeah. That's a good feeling.
It's a really good feeling.
So does the book end on a happy note? Or do you want to tell us?
Yes. I promised in the end of the book, I promised an epilogue, which I still have to do and put on the website for anybody that wants to know more. Because I've gotten emails like, what happens? What happens?
Right.
So that's coming.
Okay. That's good to know. That's really good to know.
But it does end on a happier note.
Okay, good. I'm glad to hear
that.
Not
a totally happy note. There's a lot that needs to be worked through, but...
Also sounds like our world.
Yeah.
There's a lot that needs to be worked through right now. As he's like hammering away downstairs, he's like, yep, I know. A lot needs to be worked through. Oh my gosh. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad to hear that it ends on somewhat of a happy note and that you're leaving people hanging. And now you're writing your 4th book.
Yes.
Do you know what it's called?
Yes. Roll Them Bones.
Ooh.
It's more like a supernatural horror.
Wow.
Thriller. Yeah.
And how did this idea come to you?
This is inspired by a real property. Actually, I won't name the place by name. It's inspired by a real casino.
Okay.
That I spent some time at. That was haunted. So these are all some stories from that I've heard and collected. It's inspired by that, then it.
Okay. And it's fiction.
It's fiction, yeah.
Okay. Cool. How far into that are you?
About 2/3.
And I'm curious, what is your vision for, like, do you want to have, like, do you just want to continue doing what you love and just writing and sharing it with the world the way that you are? Do you see it being like, do you want to be like the next version of Harry Potter? Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, not Harry Potter, but like.
Yeah.
That would be nice,
that
right?
That would be awesome. I don't know that I could be that devoted to one world. Mm-hmm. Like J.K. Rowling is like, she writes one world.
Yeah.
But like a Stephen King or something like that would be like my ultimate.
Cool. That's so cool. You'll do it. I know it. 100%.
Well, that's why I like to talk to you. I always leave feeling so inspired and good.
Oh, thank you. I'm so glad. That makes me happy. So I always ask this on the podcast, like, what makes you, Danielle, a badass manifester? What makes you that powerful creator that you are?
That is a good but tough question. I think it's just being willing to be you and put yourself out there. Mm-hmm. Like, part of me doesn't care what other people think. If I like what I'm doing, then I'm going to do it.
Yeah. That's really good. I think that's so key. And I think that holds so many people back because they care so much what other people think.
Yeah.
And it does, like, stop them.
Yeah.
Good for you for freeing yourself up.
Yeah. And I do feel like I will ask the universe for ideas.
Oh, cool.
And, like, I got stuck. I thought, like, my dad wanted me to finish my master's degree so bad. I'm like, no. And it all came, I did the entire coursework. I just had to write my thesis, my master's thesis. I'm like, I don't know what I'm going to do. I can't do it. I'm totally stuck. And then I'm like, I said a prayer. Then my grandfather, who died when I was like 3, came to me in a dream and told me what to do it on.
Stop.
Yeah. I don't know if it was like,
no, I totally believe
him,
it. Yeah.
But, to other people, they could say it was my brain, but whatever it was.
Well, you're talking to the right people listening to this. We all get you. Yeah. It doesn't sound weird to us.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. That's amazing. Do you dream about your dad?
Yeah.
You do?
Yeah. I'll pray for him to come to me in dreams. Sometimes it happens. Sometimes it doesn't. I've had weird dreams. Then I've just gotten feelings. But, even for ideas, I'll ask the universe.
Yeah. And then they come through, don't they?
Yeah.
It's really is true. Ask and you shall receive. I believe that all the time. I feel like when we're efforting too much, within ourselves, we're not tapping into that, universal flow.
Yeah.
And I love that you do that. That's so cool.
Yeah. And I feel like with writing, I'm doing what I'm meant to be doing. Mm-hmm. I get signs or anything. I don't even know how to explain it. It just feels right. Not easy, but right.
Mm-hmm. So many nuggets you've dropped here. It's not easy, but it's right. And I think that that's such a powerful note to end on because everyone listening, there's something that you're meant to do. There's something that's calling you or pulling you forward. And it's not meant to be easy. It's not meant to feel easy because if it was just so easy for everyone, we'd all be doing what we're meant to be. I don't know. It's just not meant to be easy because we have things that we need to work through, to get to that point to be like, this is what I'm doing and moving it forward. And
yeah.
I love that so much. Cool. Yeah. Thank you for being here.
No, thank you. This is so much fun.
So fun. How can everyone connect with you? We're going to link the books up in the show note. I know you're on Instagram, but it's more of your family, your adventures.
Yeah.
Some of your book stuff is on there.
Yeah, I try and do a balance, but...
Yeah. Where should people connect with you if they want to reach out to you?
I'm on Facebook, Danielle Gomes Author, and then I have a website, Danielle Gomes Writes, and I'm very responsive if I get emails or messages through the website.
Perfect.
I'm pretty easy to
reach. Pretty easy to find. Okay, cool. And definitely let us know what part of this you love the most, what resonated with you. We would love to hear from you, so please reach out. And if you do end up purchasing her books, definitely leave a review on Amazon because that always helps get the book out there more and just helps readers make their decision of whether or not they want to read the book.
Please do.
So definitely write your review. And thanks for listening, everyone.
Thank you.
All right, we'll see you later.
Bye.
Thanks for being here.
Yeah, thank you. It was so fun.
Woo! We did some work today. Thank you so much for listening. You know I love my BAM fan. If this episode resonated with you, please share it with someone who you know would love it too, because we live for the ripple effect over here. And how can you best support the show? Make sure you're subscribed, hit the 5 stars, and leave a review on iTunes, and let me know how the podcast has impacted you. I love being part of your real-time journey, so screenshot the episode and tag me and my guests on Instagram @ManifestWithAsh. Now say it with me. I am my own power source. I am the master of my own energy, and I deserve everything that I desire. We don't just talk about it over here, we be about it. Now go get them.